What I want to do is solve problems. Solve problems that I see are holding back this state, holding back people I care very, very deeply about.
That's former New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof officially announcing he's running for Oregon governor. Kristof says he's walking away from the career he has loved for what he sees as a calling to serve, a chance to lead his home state of Oregon at a critical time. I caught up with him ahead of the announcement at his family's farm in Yamhill.
Those other apples seem to be doing okay down there.
Yeah, they don't need any more water, that's for sure.
No, they sure don't.
Nick Kristof grew up on this farm in Yamhill, where his mother Jane still lives. Inside the old barn on a blustery October afternoon, he announced he made his decision. So what have you decided?
I've decided I am going to run for governor of Oregon.
With that, Kristof, a two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, made it official. He's leaving his 37-year career as a New York Times columnist to join the race to be the Democratic nominee for Oregon governor. A decision he said was tough, but feels is a calling.
It was a wonderful perch, but when your friends and people you deeply care about are suffering and you're attending funeral after funeral, then that perch and writing columns that are read in the White House doesn't mean as much as knowing that you're going to be going to another funeral.
Kristof wrote about those childhood friends in Yamhill in the book Tightrope. He co-wrote with his wife Cheryl Wudun. A quarter of the kids on his school bus have died from drugs, alcohol, or suicide. He sees those tragedies as a reflection of the deep problems Oregon faces.
I don't think anybody can look around Portland or elsewhere and think this is a model of good governance.
If elected, Kristof said his top 3 priorities would be addressing homelessness and affordable housing, improving the state's education system, and creating good jobs. He pointed to opportunities in climate technology.
Oregon has a fighting chance to create those good jobs, and whoever becomes that climate hub is going to be the Silicon Valley for the next 50 years in terms of the job opportunities it creates.
As for the type of governor he'd like to be, he looks to the late Governor Tom McCall for inspiration. McCall was also a journalist, an investigative reporter at KGW before getting into politics. A 2-term Republican, McCall was known for bringing people together.
I think that as a liberal from a conservative rural area, maybe I have some natural advantage in trying to build bridges and try to bring people together, and I believe it's time to try.
Kristof has faced questions about whether he meets eligibility requirements that he's lived in the state of Oregon for 3 years before the election. He voted in New York in 2020, but Kristof insists he's an Oregonian.
But I think that, what's more important than checking the boxes here and there is that my soul is here. My bones are here. My life revolves around this farm, around people here.
Kristof has no political experience, but he believes he has what it takes to lead the state.
I've come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, we can't solve these problems as a state if we continue to send the same kind of people to Salem to try to address problems that they help foster in many cases.
This is the first open Oregon governor's race in 2 decades. Kate Brown has reached her term limit and can't run again. Kristof will join a Democratic primary field that already includes some veteran Oregon politicians. Oregon House Speaker Tina Kotek and State Treasurer Tobias Reed are both running for the office, as are at least a half dozen other Democrats. State Senator Betsy Johnson, a Democrat, is running as unaffiliated. On the Republican side, at least 12 candidates have announced they're running. Expect the campaigns to really heat up in the new year ahead of the primaries in May. The general election is Tuesday, November 8th.
Right above the wells here, we have a homeless encampment. You have vehicles that are being stripped down.
I've had it where I've been on the path and actually had a car coming at me on the bike path.
Two viewers of our 6 p.m. show, The Story, reached out to us concerned about the homeless camps they've seen along Marine Drive and 33rd in Northeast Portland. Maggie Vespa joins us now. You saw their emails and you agreed to meet with them.
Yeah, Laurel, as you know, that's what we do exactly on The Story. Again, that airs at 6. We take viewers' questions and their ideas and we turn them into content. We report on them. So yesterday, case in point, I met up with two viewers along Northeast Marine Drive. Jim Carr there is a retired city employee. He took us to Well 15. It is a city well that is part of Portland's drinking water infrastructure, and it's surrounded by a large camp with lots of cars and RVs. And Carr is afraid that fluids from those vehicles, also perhaps human waste, could eventually seep into the groundwater and contaminate the well. We'll get to the city's take on that in a second. Then we met up with cyclist Mark Blanchard. He says his sister-in-law recently found her stolen car in this camp at Marine Drive and I-205. Both men say they're just so disappointed in their city.
Are we really wanting to allow people to live that way? You know, no one deserves to be living in that type of condition.
We're humans, and we don't appreciate being talked to like we're trash. So we're just trying to survive just like everybody else. We're just having a little harder time.
Derek there says people in the camp, that first one near Well 15, take care of their vehicles. He says no one should worry about the well. And the city, by the way, is also aware of this issue. Commissioner Mingus Mapps heads up the Water Bureau, and he tells us Portland's water is absolutely safe to drink. And he says the Bureau is not even currently using that specific well. That being said, as far as the camps there in general, a spokesperson for the city didn't give us much hope of them being cleared anytime soon. In short, she said there are a lot of different property owners down there, and the legality of clearing those camps is really complicated. So clearly not what viewers at home are going to want to hear. We'll dive into this at 6 on The Story.
Right, we'll see you then. Thank you, Maggie.
Sure.
With COVID cases in the area decreasing, the Tigard-Tualatin School District plans to start allowing more volunteers and visitors. Until now, the district has allowed a very limited number of volunteers if they're critical to serving students.
We, as at Tigard-Tualatin, started to say, okay, what are some of the next things that we can put onto the plate that will move us one step further along towards, a full, normal, if you will, school experience that we're used to pre-pandemic.
Volunteers will have to be vaccinated. The superintendent says there are also plans to bring back holiday performances and after-school activities like chess club. A photographer in Camas is using her talents to capture what it took for dozens of businesses to stay open during the pandemic. Her images will turn into a display showcasing resilience. John Goodwin has a preview.
When someone's in front of my camera, I really want them to feel comfortable.
A flash, a frame,
Good.
a moment captured.
All right.
At Laura Blair's photography studio in Camas, it's not just point and shoot.
We are storytellers here with our portraits.
Each one of Laura's sessions turns into a work of art. One of her taglines is "Walls really can talk."
I've always believed that pictures speak. They are so powerful to make us feel emotions, to make us feel connected.
After a rough couple years downtown, she knows others had plenty to say too.
Everybody during the pandemic had to find ways to rework their businesses, basically, like how to survive.
Carrie Watts works at Arctana, a women's shoe and clothing boutique on 4th Avenue. She's not the only one who's seen Camas unite.
Long before the pandemic began, I realized that you don't have a business in a town this size unless you've created relationships.
Kimberly Cook owns Truly Scrumptious. She signed her lease 2 weeks before COVID spoiled business as usual. A couple doors down, Lori Cano might be the best example of resilience. Laid off at Arctana, she opened Poppy and Hawk in August.
It is my heart and soul in this story. Being here in Camas, you feel like family. And that might sound cheesy to some, but it really does.
Of course, here, that's not news to anybody. Always the photographer, Laura still wanted to capture it.
And I started thinking about what it has taken to have us still stand and to be thriving.
She calls it the Pivot Project. It's a celebration of other Camas shops who've survived the pandemic.
find out what their pivots were, all the things that they did to stay alive, and then what their hopes were for the future.
Almost 40 businesses came to the studio to be photographed and share their stories. On November 16th from 3 to 5, this wall will speak of each image and story at a free exhibit inside the restaurant in Westra Mesa.
I don't think that my business would have been as successful had I done this anyplace else.
I'm going to battle through. So if I can get through this really hard stuff, I'm going to fly in the good times.
Moments turned into memories, stories woven together to show helping one another is the best way forward.
We're still here, we're doing well, and we are one. We can't do all of this without each other, which has been very cool for a small town to be able to say.
In Camas, John Goodwin, KGW News.